Welcome back, and let's start with our first segment for today, talking about the Algerian president visit to Egypt. Actually, many discussions took place between the Algerian president and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in different domains. Today, we are going to shed the light on some of these important topics that were discussed with our guest, Dr. Ibrahim al-Ghazawi, Professor of International Relations. So, Doctor, in the very beginning, let's shed the light on the significance of this visit.
Well, good morning to you and to Egypt and all Arab nations. Well, this visit comes at a very critical time in our recent history in the Middle East area and also in the Arab world. There's a lot of challenges around us going through, and many developments are undergoing. And the most important step to be taken today is to reach sort of harmonious efforts from Arab world all together. Here comes the significance of this visit. It's not only concerning Algeria and Egypt. It's concerning the Arab League, the Arab world, the Arab countries, the common causes, the common ground that we should all work with, work on nowadays, because actually the challenges that we face today in the region are unprecedented. Most of these challenges by nature are new. Here comes the significance, as I said, in this visit, because what we need today most is to join together, to join hands, simply because no one country alone can confront these challenges. Egypt realizes this simply and naturally. Since President Sisi came to office, and he realizes this fact, he opened the gates with the cooperation in Africa, not only in the Arab world, but also the whole African continent, and also opened the cooperation channels with all world countries, whether in Europe or Asia or Russia or China or United States, all the world countries. Well, the equation is so clear. No one country can live alone today. Also, as I say, the nature of challenges are unprecedented. They talk about COVID-19 and the new versions that come day after day of this virus, which is, I would say, the most threatening recent challenge, not only to Egypt, but to all humanity, the whole world. If you see the side effects of this virus in the giant economies like United States and France and United Kingdom, China, Russia, all the world leading economies are suffering a lot from this virus. Not to mention the casualties, the victims, millions that have died, and more than 300 million already infected. So we talk about a challenge that we are not very far from. Actually, you are in the middle of the circle of threats in the Middle East. Well, not to mention also politically that we have a lot of challenges in the region. Whether in the Northern African region, and we'll talk about Libya, we'll talk about the relations between Morocco and
I was
Algeria.
just going to discuss this part, actually, talking about, we all know how we have deep roots between Algerians and Egyptians. And as mentioned by the president himself, talking that there was consensus when it comes to different points of view regarding the region. For example, if we're talking about the Libyan file and the importance of Libya, and when it comes to the stability in Libya, definitely this is of great importance, not only to Egypt, but to the whole region as well.
Well, actually, we are moving, steadily to the serious points when it comes to cooperation. That's why I see this visit, comes at the very right time. You just mentioned the Libyan issue, which is a real concern for both Egypt and Algeria. Simply because Libya has a very long border with Egypt, 1,170 kilometers of joint borders, with the same more or less with Algeria. So we talk about a joint concern for us. We are not talking about a far neighbor. We talk about very intimate and very close neighbors to us. That's why when we look into solutions, our eyes and our hearts also are with our brothers in Libya. It's not like any other foreign, powers that might seek their own interests. No, for Algeria and for Egypt, we seek first the interests of the Libyan brothers, simply because their interests are ours. We don't have this sort of division in interests. But any other territorial powers or international powers in the whether already have hands in Libya and play different threads in the coast there, or getting ready to intervene. Any
For their own
intervention,
interests.
any intervention is just for their own interests, not for Libyans. That's why I believe one of the main challenges for our Libyan brothers today, from all different factions, different groups in Libya, whatever or whatsoever, is to realize this fact, which is a point of agreement also between the two presidents, President Tapon and President Sisi yesterday, that they have agreed on that the solution of the Libyan cause is or must be coming from inside the Libyan brothers themselves. The Libyan people themselves, they have the solution within the Libyan land. So any sort of different views or those who might be thinking that reliance on foreign powers will be solutions, that's absolutely wrong. That will deepen complications, that will prolong the suffering of Libyans, and also will devastate the natural resources of Libya, instead of taking these resources and giving them to Libyans to start real development and sustainable development and rebuild their economy and reshape their future to the better side. Instead, they will be getting even deeper and deeper into conflicts. That's why probably one of the most important issues today in the talks between the two presidents is the Libyan cause. The solution should be coming from inside Libya. All the foreign interventions have to stop immediately. The foreign presence for any troops in Libya should be leaving immediately, and they have to understand this in the Libyan side. No matter how different views they might have with each other, which is normal. I mean, there is no any society in the world which have 100% identical views on things. You always have this sort of parity, so disparities and parities, and life goes like that. We accept differences, and we set our own issues inside our house, trying to reach the better solution.
National stability has to be the priority.
Of course, there must be priorities. On top of it, the unity of the region, the geographic entity of Libya should be number one. Simply because there is a threat of division. There is a threat of some calls for dividing Libya, and these calls might be coming from inside, but also encouraged from some outside world powers. And they have to be very careful about that. That's why we see the priority today going through, agreeing on the election to be set in the nearest possible time, on agreeing that the solution should be Libyan, not imposed by others on the Libyan, because, as I said, any intervention into the Libyan issue will be, realizing the foreign interests rather than the Libyan ones.
And the division itself definitely will cause to deterioration.
Of course.
And we have seen this in many other places.
Of course. And as you said, we have seen this before. So it's not new. And for us, we can foretell, we can foresee that if they do not unite today, no matter how different views they have on the solutions, on the details, but they have to come all together. And we have, as I always say, that democracy is the art of combining differences together, but live in peace. And we can absorb, we can understand differences We can work hard to make these differences for the good of the society, for the good of the state, for the good of the whole nation.
But under the umbrella of
But under
unity
umbrella
and
of unity.
solidarity.
Of course. So priority number one is unity. Priority number one is Libya one. Should remain one. Should stay one, undividable, indivisible. And also it is sort of a trap that might some Libyans, fall into if they don't realize this fact. And unfortunately, we have some recent examples in the region are in continuous suffering because some sectarian considerations might supersede the overall national ones. So sectarian or sectarian considerations or interests, well, they are acceptable, but not to be above the national ones, above the nationwide considerations. I don't want to mention names in the region, but we have living examples today for this sort of problems based on sectarian divisions.
And President al-Sisi from day one actually tackled this important issue, talking about the solidarity of the Arab countries and the independence, what happened in the region and how we can everyone support the Arab countries and to have our own destiny in our own hands without any international interference.
Well, that's exactly one of the most important points today, is to realize that we should, as President Sisi stressed many times, we should remain the same, one, we should remain unified. And unified doesn't mean that we all have the same vision of the same things. No, absolutely not.
Even at home, we don't have the same vision.
It doesn't happen even in our natural life, even within the same family, the father and son and two brothers or two sisters, and they don't have the same vision of things. But still, the family is a family. The respect is a respect. The priority are priorities, and we can all live together. So I do believe that the current issue today, which is critical to Libyans, is to realize that they have to set the priority of nationalism, patriotism, Libya first, and in the top of their interests, and anything else comes down or comes later after that. If they realize this point, the fears will clear away, because simply they will come to, like what President Sisi said many times, the red lines. Red lines is untouchable. You should not approach them. But before them, with a safe distance, we have to stop. They have to stop when it comes to Libyan region, Libyan unity.
Well, they experienced this in the past.
Yeah. And also the experience around us and around them are very clear. We talk about the problems in Iraq and problems in Yemen and problems in Syria. And we don't want other countries to be trapped in the same dilemma. And we have always to remember what President Sisi said several times, that the country that collapses and when the public system and regime breaks down, it's not easy for it to be rebuilt again. It takes tens or probably hundreds of years for the country to regain its shape again. So who would like to try this? Who would like to open the gates of hell in the society? Who would like to have the people killing each other? Sectarian clashes is really horrible. And we don't want more suffering. It's enough. I think the Arab region has suffered enough in recent years, and hopefully the Libyan brothers would realize that.
Right. Both presidents also tackled another important issue, fighting terrorism and manifestations, and the support or working between both countries. We're talking again about the whole region, as you mentioned.
Well, it's still the issue of terrorism is always a nagging issue, a sizzling point, not only in Egypt or Algeria, actually the whole world. And it needs a sort of sustainable measures. It's not a crime or a threat that you can deal with momentarily by some steps and then you will forget that. That's a colossal mistake that any country could fall into. The problem is that terrorism is a crime that needs sort of to confront, needs sort of planning and strategic planning based on partnership today. Terrorism, as we have witnessed recently, is not a local concern for any country. It's today a universal problem. It's universal concern. All the countries in the world, including the first line countries, are suffering from terrorism, between whiles. And one of the most important issues for fighting terrorism is cooperation, as terrorism crime is a border crossing crime today. So it could be planned in one country, financed in another country, and implemented in a third country with partners coming from fourth country and fifth country. So we talk about very complicated issue. That means simply that the cooperation is not luxury here. Cooperation is a must. We talk about cooperation on different levels, whether security or national security level, information exchange, intelligence, banking and financing, business, because financing issue in terrorism is a real concern for all countries. Terrorism is a crime that needs a lot of money, a lot of financing, and financing is the secret word for terrorism. Where this money come from? We talk about tens or even millions of millions of dollars. It's pouring, coming in and outside different countries, mostly through the banking systems and money laundering, and some, of course, going illegally through smuggling. But still, financing is a real concern that no only single country can handle. It has to have like a network of cooperating countries all over the world. And the same more or less applies in what we used to call major crimes, like human trafficking, like drug trafficking, like illegal weapons trafficking. But this sort of crimes yield a huge amount of money to the organized crime gangs. And unfortunately, most of the world countries cannot fight this alone, simply or individually, simply because these gangs and these organizers are giant. They have more financial means, more capabilities than most of the world countries individually. So the cooperation here is a must in Africa or in Middle East or anywhere in the world. And I think the coming Arab summit that was supposed to be held in Algeria also, which was one of the points I think of course was raised between the two presidents, is the Arab summit in Algeria that was planned, or so far still officially planned, in March. It's not stated yet officially from the Algerian side that it is postponed. So we will see today or the coming days whether it will be held in March or will be postponed for Corona reason, as the Arab League announced it. Anyway,
sir, how do you see the importance of bringing and sitting all the Arab presidents of Arab countries sitting together and talking together? Because now I think everyone got the message that we are not living alone, and it's a global village. True. But the most important part is that whenever it comes to the Arab region, definitely the most important part is that stop for interference and let's work together. And I think we realized also the importance of the economic ties between countries and the economic help and support. And let's put it like this. This is also something of great importance that will enrich the relations. It has to be a win-win policy at the end.
It must be indeed. I also do believe that the current challenges today would not allow much space for Arab leaders to think that they can be working individually as countries. We talk a lot for years and years about the importance and significance of Arab countries to work together, have sort of cooperation, and for the benefits of every individual living in all Arab world, whether people, not natural people, or institutions or states. It's a real request for all Arab people to have that sort of cooperation, which is so far weak and not up to the aspirations of the Arab people. I do believe that challenges today are stronger, much stronger than before, which will be a very compelling factor that will push Arab leaders today to be more considerate to working together. It wasn't luxury before, but today it is a sort of a real need for life, for continuing our normal life in Arab world. The challenges are really growing. Problems that we face in the Arab world today, if we get back or recall like 30 or 20 or 30 years ago, we didn't have most of these problems that we have today. It means that the level is going up. The threats are getting higher and higher over time. And the only way to diminish and control that that sort of deterioration in the overall situation in the Arab world is to work together. Well, if you talk about economy, it's for the all interests of the whole world, Arab world, to work together. When we talk about the side effects of coronavirus and the bad results of mostly Arab economies' performance, except for 2 or 3 countries in the Arab world, Egypt on top of them, economy, which is working positively still, but we all need to work together. We have to work together to make sort of complementary efforts between different economies to actually to achieve 2 goals in the very same time. To counter or work against the side effects of coronavirus on economies. That's one thing. Other thing is to join hands to magnify the positive effects of cooperation between Arab world. And we have to remember always that the outside trade with outside world, outside the Arab world, probably 90% of the whole percentage of Arab trade, which is really shame on us as Arabs. It should be at least 50-50, at least. I'm not talking about 80% in between Arab world and then 20 with the other. No, I'm talking about at least 50%. And we can do that. We have in the Arab world many countries that can rely on each other when it comes to industry, when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to tourism, all aspects of life. So, but it's still so far some Arab decisions usually rely on the foreign cooperation economically rather than Arab cooperation, which is a mistake. We have to realize this, and the sooner we realize this, of course, the better. Instead of bolstering each other's economies and work together, we work individually. And if we work individually, the benefit will be very much less than if we work all hands together. Well, Egypt has a lot of good expertise in recent years when it comes to economic reforms. We started in 2016, in November 2016.
I believe we just started just on time.
Yeah.
If it was going to be a late one day, I think definitely things could never have been like this.
Exactly. It's like a successful move before the total collapse for us. But today we have something, we have an economy to be proud of. I was just scanning this morning before coming to the studio the statistics of the African performance of different economies, and I was so proud to see Egypt #2 in Africa, immediately after Nigeria, with gross domestic product $396 billion a year, and Nigeria is #1 in Africa today with $481 billion a year. Egypt, $396 billion a year gross domestic product. If you get back to 2016, it was around $165 billion. So you see how big the difference is between 165 to $395 billion within just 5 years. This is a miracle, an economic miracle. And of course, thanks to the Egyptian people that have accepted this harsh procedures of economic reforms, and that was President Sisi said many times, the real hero of this change is Egyptian people, because they understood that that this harsh steps should have been taken very long time ago, and if this is late anymore, that will be dangerous to the whole state.
Yeah.
As I said, this is very positive for us, positive lesson in Egypt. We have positive lessons actually in rebuilding the state. Talk about infrastructure, the expertise of Egypt in so many aspects, and we have also a lot of achievements when it comes to healthcare sector, when it comes to changing realities of living conditions to many slum areas in Egypt, and changing diametrically their nature of life from poverty, from very poor living conditions to very much decent and acceptable level of conditions for normal people without even paying a penny to the state. It's all at the cost of the government. So we in Egypt today have gone enough way to, in the way of sustainable development. And also we're still willing, and will be always willing to cooperate with the Arab world, of course.
Right, Dr. Ibrahim Ghazawi, Professor of International Relations, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Right, moving on to a quick break, then we'll be back with more on The Breakfast Show.